everybody, and welcome to Say Something. My name's Bryn. I wear a lot of hats in Web3, like most of you, I assume. But the most fun one, I think, is organising events in this place. So, Say Something is a non-profit association. It's a creative hub, it's an open forum, and a co-working space as well. So, if you're based in Barcelona and you want to work with like-minded futurists through the day, they'll work every day. If you want to see the rest of our events, they're on say.barcelona, so you can find us there. Tonight's panel is the future of Web3 privacy. So it's an often overlooked area of the blockchain industry. It's a massive barrier to adoption of our technology. We've got speakers from the Secret Network, from Zama, and from Panther Protocol as well. So give them a big welcome. Thanks for the sponsorship as well. It's actually really difficult to make money selling art, so really appreciate you guys. Okay, why don't we take a moment to introduce ourselves and then we'll get started.
Okay. I'm Oliver, CEO of Panther. Panther has created Web3 compliance compatible DeFi infrastructure. In layman's terms, we allow users to access privacy on pseudonymous blockchains, which are otherwise pseudonymous and can be statistically analyzed and are statistically analyzed. So de-anonymizing those with the relevant users.
Hey, I'm Morten, so I'm from Zama. We primarily build a morphic encryption library, so it's a way of encrypting data, so you can compute on it afterwards without decrypting it. On top of this, we're also building two applications. One is around AI and machine learning, and then the other one is around blockchain, which is why we get today. So basically bringing encryption to blockchains.
I'm Lisa Lau. I'm the Executive Director of Secret Network Foundation, and we are building privacy as a service so that other developers in different chains can use privacy whenever they need to in order to forward the advancement of blockchain adoption in the mainstream world.
Nice. Okay. So I guess we'll start at the end of Lisa. So why is privacy important? Where has it been overlooked in the past, and what barriers has it faced for adoption of blockchain technology?
Yeah, those are like three big questions, but I would say that privacy is something that we take for granted in our world. And when Apple talks about privacy, it's a great thing, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, Apple, thanks, you're saving our privacy." But when blockchain talks about privacy, like, "Oh, you want to do criminal activity and money laundering." So the thing is that we don't realize how much privacy we have in our regular daily lives and how much we will give up if we don't preserve it. So, for example, there's things like, just the basic example, you wouldn't leave your living room or your bedroom without curtains, right? So that everyone can see it. There's things that you don't necessarily want to share with the world. And with blockchain, everything's transparent. So I really believe that the last part of your question is that I don't think that blockchain can really be adopted by industry and by some of these things that we want, like healthcare, industry, manufacturing, where there's trade secrets. We can't really have adoption unless we have some form of privacy in our data. And at Secret, we're really working on private computation, so confidential computation rather than transactional privacy. And I really believe that that is the future for blockchain. It's going to be barriers to adoption.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I can add much to that. I feel like we have the same perspective on it. So it's more that without privacy or confidentiality, there's simply stuff you can't do. So either moving from traditional finance into DeFi, if you do it today, you're losing things compared to what you already have. And the thing missing is that you can protect your balance and so on. And also there's applications that just move more with blockchain without having privacy.
Yeah, I think in the finance vertical particularly, of course, this is the area that gets all of the heat because it's where money laundering takes place, and there are obviously very good reasons to avoid that. But when you look at financial services we access every day, they're all confidential financial services, and pseudonymous blockchains do not afford that type of computation on chain. The closest we really have is the centralized exchange, which acts as like a pseudo-user. And so, from the perspective of user privacy, this is the problem. On the other hand, when you're thinking about the value of financial services, particularly asset managers, we're talking about trade secrets, we're bringing alpha. Where should I be buying and selling assets to generate an outside return compared to the market? That's what every asset manager in the world says to some degree. And so, in some sense, we're focused on sort of protecting against the alpha decay that naturally happens anyway when you use a financial service. No asset manager's edge indefinitely remains. The market information has a desire to propagate as it does. And so you find that these asset managers invest sometimes billions of dollars into creating a competitive edge. And so how then would one of these asset managers translate to superior technology, i.e. blockchain technology, if they don't have the ability to protect their trading strategies?
Zama is probably at the forefront of blockchain research and development and Fully Homomorphic Encryption. So why should developers build with privacy in mind from the early stages of product development?
I think one thing is that privacy is not just something you add later on. So often you kind of need to think it into the design from the beginning. So it could be the user experience, the developer experience, maybe just what the product looks like. So if you try to add this later on, you might not get the privacy you actually going for. To give one example, maybe you say, okay, you have an ERC20 token, for example, and you just want to encrypt the balances of it. But then as soon as you say, okay, now we have privacy for this token, as soon as you start using that token, you realize there could be some leakage elsewhere. So the problem just kind of escalates. I think from the beginning, it's just easier if you think about, okay, what does privacy actually mean for this technology?
Yeah, it's I've heard it compared to adding a privacy equal to a bowl of code spaghetti in the past. I think that
Zuko said once, adding privacy to Ethereum is like trying to start with a sieve, and then you say, okay, our objective is to make this not leak Ethereum.
Yeah.
You've chosen to start.
So, so how are your projects? What privacy solutions are you using, and what use cases can they each address? Because you all use quite different approaches to achieving privacy. We'll start with yourself.
Yeah, sure. And I think just on that point, privacy is a very nuanced subject because there are many different ways to give up your privacy, and there are many different areas if you want. Like what degree of privacy really exists on the spectrum? It's seldom an absolute. So in Panther's case, we're focused on pseudonymous blockchains, breaking the linkage between sender and receiver. So it's probabilistic privacy, really making it difficult for an average attacker, even a sophisticated attacker, to determine who the senders and receivers are. In layman's terms, it's a mixer. The target for our mixer is really what is now being termed virtual asset service providers, so VASPs. And the target audience for those would be financial service providers. So if you're offering DeFi services through a hub, if you're offering broker-dealer services, centralized exchange services, peer-to-peer transactions, payment networks. These are the use cases that we're targeting. And we sort of looked at the space and said, okay, there is this emerging field. There's like Phoenix and Secret, like Phoenix is using Zama's technology stack, FHE, and Secret Network, which has been around for a while, using SGX for your form of privacy, which are saying we're creating new environments. These environments are built from the ground up to afford users, developers, etc., privacy. And Panther's taking the approach of saying, but what about Ethereum, what about Solana, and these other networks who have considerable network effects? And so there's a market there, and there's sunset effect that one makes on is the new class of private ground up L1, L2 going to dominate the field, or are the legacy players with huge network effects going to dominate the field? Really for us, I think there's not going to be a single commodity. The market's already fragmented. And so sort of addressing the problem space of the
Just to respond to that, I think it's interesting that you mentioned like Ethereum is not built from the ground up with privacy, and yet Vitalik has been talking about the importance of privacy so much. I'm just wondering, like, what's going to happen with Ethereum? He designed Ethereum to be transparent, and now he's the one who's kind of an advocate for privacy. I'm just wondering, like, how will Ethereum really move into this? Not a cross-chain, just like. It seems a little bit ironic that Vitalik is a privacy advocate now, and he didn't build from the ground up with privacy in mind.
The philosophical question is, if you could do it again,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Could you tell us a little bit about Fully Homomorphic Encryption and what this is going to look like?
Yeah, so Fully Homomorphic Encryption is a bit similar to XTX. It's two different ways of achieving roughly the same thing. So there's the ability to compute securely on data while the data is encrypted. Our Fully Homomorphic Encryption library is kind of well suited for the blockchain. It has certain properties. It's been an active research area for many years. It became practical a few years ago. And what we're now trying to do is push it into systems that could benefit from this. So, but again, it's not a silver bullet. As you're saying as well, there is anonymity, there is CK, there's encryption privacy. And I really think to design a proper solution, you need a mix of all this. So you can use FHE for some things where you want to keep the data protected while you compute on it. But you still need to address the problem that sometimes there is a leakage. So we're not using it, for instance, to address anonymous accounts or transactions. Everything is transparent on that front, which is saying you can encrypt the data, keep the data confidential. You can still see that we made a transaction together, but just can't see the amount because the amount is not really encrypted. So if you want to protect that, you need something else. You need anonymity, you need a mixer, and so on. If you want to have the total supply of a token, then that could give you some idea of how much was minted between transactions. So if you want to protect that, then you need another privacy technique, virtual privacy or some kind of noise or something else that gives you that. But we do think that there is a puzzle missing that's being settled or handled by XTX or FHE, which is you also need to do the computation on the data. And I don't know, so maybe with respect to Ethereum, then it's also a very tough question to answer. Right? So maybe Ethereum is an example of saying we want to move forward, but these technologies are still being developed, and it is tough. Right? There's no silver bullet just saying this is what we want.
As Oliver mentioned, Secret is built with SGX technology, so the trusted execution environment. And again, we're not doing, so what I want to say is that privacy is a very broad spectrum. There's transactional privacy, there's financial privacy, and which is very similar, and then there's data privacy. Then even within those broad categories, there's fully homomorphic encryption, which is cumbersome and slow at the moment. Maybe in the future, maybe in 5 years, it will be at the same speed that what we can do with SGX, but at the moment, it's very slow. So it's very useful for a high security application, like a military application or government or something that really needs to have very high security. Whereas the trusted execution environment is much faster. It's much more secure than just having clear data transmission. And so altogether, what we're building at Secret is this notion of a constellation of privacy that encompasses all of the different parts of privacy. We want to collaborate with other projects in the space so that we make a constellation. We work together to build privacy in all the different areas that it needs to be built so that, like you said, we can bring all of these pieces together and form a nice, beautiful whole eventually.
You've actually answered my next question, which was about different projects with very different technological approaches to achieving privacy. How can they work together and combine their strengths and offset their weaknesses to create a holistic approach to product development and work through?
I feel like from a product perspective, probably the biggest challenge, like there's very consequential mathematical and technical challenges that are being hurdled for a usable product. But even on the other side of that, there's the user experience. And so users really are not prepared to make, most of them are not prepared to make the type of sacrifices in terms of user experience that are necessary to really have a very private experience. And so I remember at an early stage, we were doing some discovery with US government around building a private mobile network operator. And got the whiteboard out. We started with turning on the device, and then we immediately said, okay, great, we're going to have to root the firmware and change everything. The boot process is going to have to change, and the browser will change, and the monitor will change, and and then sort of got through the section and said, look, this is so far away from really being able to deliver holistic privacy, because the complexity involved, we'll be talking about hardcore privacy advocacy. And so users in privacy tend to exist on a bell curve. You say, I really want to be private because I'm a hardcore zealot. I really want to be private because I'm doing something terrible. And there are these like long tail users. I really want to be private because we make so much, typically, money in financial markets. You're a trade secrets and you protect them. Those are sort of the target users that we're looking at in what I say is a very early cycle adoption curve for privacy solutions.
Maybe that adds to the complexity of the thing, right? So again, coming back to it's not a simple volume, it is cutting edge technology. This is 30 years of research in cryptography that's kind of coming together to actually build these solutions, right? So taking that research, making it practical to your one area, but also making it user-friendly for developers. There is a lot to learn here. So even today, with blockchain, you see around CK, that you can use CK and getting that to perform it in a good way, finding an application where it's actually useful, and we did at least in the software process, it's non-trivial. And now we're adding even more technologies into that. So we are dealing with something that is kind of very complex and very challenging. So I think it's not surprising that it takes a bit to get into it. You can't hide all of that stuff. There is some privacy is a mindset, I think, from the developer perspective. It's not, again, something you just turn a flip and have it, especially when you have it. As a developer and as a user, you need to get into it. What are the aspects of this? What are the use cases where it kind of makes sense under those limitations?
Yeah, you referred to something, I might be anticipating the question. Again, I'm sorry, ma'am. But you mentioned that users don't know how to really care about privacy. And so if users, and you mentioned that developers don't know how to build for privacy. So I see my mission at Secret Network as educating developers in how to build for privacy first. And reaching out to that developer community, making them aware of the importance of building with privacy. But then I really think that the responsibility for building applications that are privacy friendly lies with developers rather than pushing it onto the users to make sure that they know. I mean, how many people have I spoken to? I've been in crypto for 6 years, and when I explain it to people how to save their private or their seed phrase, and they're like, what if I lose my password? Too bad. That's it. You're responsible. People don't want to be responsible for those consequences. They want some way out. They want some fail-safe, right? So it's just a little incompatible with blockchain, but that's why we're young. But anyway, the point is that we have to build so that it's easy for users to maintain their own privacy.
Thanks, guys. So what's next on the roadmap for each of you? What would you expect to see?
Panther's in the middle of an 8-phase test net. Actually, not quite at the midpoint. So we're in stage 2, we're entering stage 3 this week. And we should be releasing the V1, which is an open beta. It's sort of a DAO governed. Panther's partitioned into zones, which zone manager is some elected entity, financial institutions, or what we're targeting. So our first zone is run by our DAO, and it has on-chain ZK compliance integrated into it. So users self-verifies, gets a credential, can access the shielded pool and transact up to $1,000 a day. So very much training wheels on, not looking like a honeypot for North Korea, Russia, wherever. So that's in the year of January is Friday.
Yes, on our side, so we're not building our own blockchain line, we're buying a component called the FHUEM that companies like Phoenix can integrate into and build a blockchain on top of. So what we're doing now is we are expanding the FHUEM, improving performance of it, getting ready for mainnet next year. For those that want to do that. And then also kind of scaling out across other platforms, you can easily integrate it into other blockchains. We're also looking into, there's still some research questions around, since we do have to make changes to the EVM in order for stuff to work. Not significant changes, but enough that we probably won't see this on Ethereum in the coming years. We're also looking into how can we kind of bridge those together, imagine some rollup and so on, which again opens up the research questions around data.
Very nice, very nice.
So it's interesting, we are on the eve of announcing our roadmap. Tomorrow, actually, we're going to announce our product roadmap. So maybe we can give a little sneak peek, right? I guess we're really moving towards Ethereum and making it possible for people to, from Ethereum to code privacy as a service with Secret, and then also supporting EVM in the future. Is there anything else? I'm going to ask you on the team if there's anything else that I should reveal. Okay. There's other things that are on the roadmap, and check it out tomorrow on our Twitter. We'll be announcing the whole thing.
Awesome stuff. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.